You don't want to say it because you don't want your woke friends feeling you betrayed them.
No,
and I think the Democrats need to, for want of a better phrase, grow a pair.
I think the only pair that's been grown is by Big Balls, who's apparently running our government right now.
We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big Balls. Big Balls.
Well, let's talk about Big Balls then.
I was a teenage boy too. I was a dipshit. You know, this guy's coming straight out of Twitch lobbies.
We have an unelected South African billionaire that Donald Trump has given the keys to the castle. So I'm all for cutting government spending, but it shouldn't be happening behind.
It's there.
It's all documented.
It's all transparent, and you all hate it.
No, it was transparent until it was taken off of the website, Mercedes. Like, you guys took it down, and then now you're making shit up.
Protect our girls. Protect our girls from boys. There's all of a sudden trying to be what? An extra gender here. Stop it. Do the basic things. Keep America safe.
Taylor Swift, most popular pop star in America, roundly booed. And then the camera turned on Trump and got almost universal cheering. The crowd kind of erupted.
I'm not that surprised by either of those reactions. I mean, part of that Chiefs fatigue is having to see the camera crew pan to, you know, Kelsey's girlfriend. People just been tired of them and their whole thing for a while now.
President Trump is beginning only his fourth week back in the White House, but he already appears to have turned the entire world upside down. The new president was introduced to the crowd at last night's Super Bowl, as was the self-styled childless cat lady Taylor Swift. Compare the reaction of fans. As well as winning an admittedly unscientific popularity contest against the biggest pop star on planet Earth, President Trump declared yesterday to be Gulf of America Day in honor of the newly renamed Ocean Basin. He also found time to ban paper straws, slam Meghan Markle, and send opponents into paroxysms of panic over a teenage cost cutter with a boastful nickname.
We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big Balls. Big Balls, who worked for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
In the one case of the Big Balls kid, a literal teenager.
Big Balls online, Big Balls here that Katie's talking about.
A 19-year-old that goes by the username Big Balls.
So that would be one way that we could refer to him.
Young computer whizzes, the aforementioned Big Balls.
Because who among us doesn't feel better about Big Balls, Big Balls, Big Balls in charge of American air traffic control?
I rather like the idea of a guy 19 called Big Balls running the country. Elon Musk's DOGE is certainly unconventional. A crack team of young people with no government experience are pouring over government spending with the aim of stripping out billions of dollars. Time magazine's among those goading the president over Musk's apparently outsized influence. In his Super Bowl pre-game interview with Fox News' Brett Baer, President Trump reiterated his full support for Musk and the program.
And I've had a great help with Elon Musk, who's been terrific.
Bottom line, you say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse.
Well, the president's first month back in office has been a spectacular course correction. It's too early to say whether it will all work, of course, but many of his executive orders are already facing challenges in the courts, even as Democrats in Congress appear toothless. But voters clearly like what they're seeing. Trump's approval ratings at a record high. A new CBS poll shows a big majority of Americans are describing him with words like tough, energetic, focused, and effective. And it might have something to do with decisive actions like this.
All of that ends today because with this executive order, the war on women's sports is over.
So big balls are back in the White House and banned from women's sport. What's not to like about that? Well, I'm sure there'll be plenty of people who think there's plenty to dislike about that. Let's find out with my panel. Sage Steele, host of the Sage Steele Show. Trae Crowder, a.k.a. the liberal Redneck. Mercedes Schlapp, the Trump former senior advisor, host of America Uncanceled on CPAC Now. And Mike Nellis, the former Kamala Harris advisor and white dude for Harris. Well, welcome to all of you. Let me start with you, Mike. You must have had a pretty rough few months.
Nope.
Really?
It is what it is.
Come on, Mike.
I lost an election. I mean, I understand that the conservatives on here are having a good time being boastful about it, but what I actually care about is getting stuff done to help people. And Look, Donald Trump got elected. He promised to get grocery prices down on day one. Grocery prices aren't down. So if you're asking me if I'm having a bad time, no, I'm not. I think the American people are having a bad time because Donald Trump made a lot of big promises that he's not meeting right now. He's doing a lot of stuff that, right-wing influencers online love, but he's not doing anything to get grocery prices down, make housing more affordable, help people retire with dignity, and that's what I actually care about.
If he's not doing a good time and the American people don't like it, why has he got record polling of approval?
Well, listen, Donald Trump's going through his honeymoon right now, and that makes sense. I think a lot of Americans are giving him the benefit of the doubt, and he's doing some stuff that they like, I think particularly on the border. But look, when he did his first TV interview after he won the election, he said, I was elected to get grocery prices down, and he hasn't done a single thing on grocery prices. Grocery prices are higher now. He hasn't done a single thing on eggs as the bird flu spreads to cows and chickens all across this country. It's a bit of a mess. And if you look at that same polling you were touting earlier, yeah, Donald Trump's got a 53% approval rating. You're acting like it's an 80% approval rating, like he's Chairman Mao, but he's not. He's got a narrow positive approval rating right now, which is good. But 2/3 of Americans are saying that he's not doing enough to lower grocery prices, and that's what he was elected to do. So he's making a critical mistake, and maybe it's not catching up to him in the first couple of weeks, but it's going to catch up to him as the American people start to feel that pain.
So you've gone from basically calling him Hitler, the Democrats and liberals, to
I never called him Hitler.
To putting all your hang on, I'm not saying you did.
Mouth.
I'm not saying you did. I'm saying that as a group, the Democrats and liberals have for years called him Hitler, a fascist, etc., and you're now reduced. I say this respectfully. You're now reduced to your Trump bashing being around all your eggs in one basket. Eggs.
No, I think what right-wing commentators like yourself are very good at.
I'm not right-wing. Whoa.
Hold on,
Mike.
You and I are not in the same wing, Piers.
I'm not a right-wing commentator. I'm not.
Listen.
I'm not. I literally ran a left-wing newspaper in Britain for 10 years.
And elevating it and trying to make it
I'm
seem
not
like the rest
right-wing,
of us
mate. I'm a centrist.
I'm a
guy that finds...
In fact, the only person in American politics that ever called Donald Trump Hitler is J.D. Vance. So come on.
But that's not true.
It is. Find it. Find where a major member of the Democratic Party
Kamala Harris
called
called him
Trump
a fascist.
Okay. Yeah. That's not the same as calling him Hitler.
Well, listen, there have been gazillions of liberals who've called him Hitler. But look, let's move on.
Sure. Yeah. You can find anybody commenting in a dumb news article at the bottom, highlight it, and say that everybody's calling him Hitler. But come on. That'd be like me saying that
Mike, you can't just call me a right-wing commentator because I'm not. If you watch my show regularly, you'd know I'm not a right-wing. What I am is viscerally anti-woke. And what happened at the election was that the country, it turned out, were also viscerally anti-woke. And along with cost of living and immigration, it was the wokery nonsense that actually cost the Democrats everything in the end.
I mean, I think that's revisionist history, though. When you poll people, they'll tell you the number one reason they voted in this election was about the economy. That was the reason that Donald Trump won. And again, when he did his first TV interview, I think he did Meet the Press, right after he got elected, he said, I was elected to lower grocery prices. I was elected to make housing more affordable. That's what I'm going to do on day one. And it's day, 30? Day 25, whatever it is, and he hasn't done anything on that. He doesn't even talk about it anymore.
You know what he's
cutting federal spending.
Mike,
he's doing a whole bunch of executive actions.
Mike, I admire the work you're trying to do here. But it's quite ironic that Trump he's banned paper straws yesterday, and you are clutching at massive paper straws right now. Let me get to Mercedes, who's been smirking her way through this. Mercedes, it seems to me if the Democrats are now reduced to eggs, they've pretty much given up in the battle against Hitler, the Nazis, the fascists, and all the other ludicrous slurs that liberals have thrown at Trump for 8 years. If it seems to me, if the only battleground now is eggs, he's won.
Well, you got to remember, Joe Biden was in office for 4 years. They could not get a handle on inflation. They could not get a handle of the American people feeling the pain of the cost of living. And yes, I mean, I would say to Mike's point, it is a priority for President Trump. This needs to be one of the biggest focuses that you're going to see, especially as Congress puts together their budget reconciliation bill, as they're going to be moving towards tax cuts, as they're going to be moving to find ways to lower inflation. As anyone who knows economics, it takes time to lower the inflation, to lower the cost of living. The American people have been leaderless for 4 years under Joe Biden. It's why they rejected Joe Biden, because everything for the Democrats always boiled down to abortion. If they would bring up the economy, it would end up talking about abortion or sex changes for children. And so they failed to connect to the American people. Something that President Trump has done, and as we're seeing in these most recent polls, is that they're showing a president who is focused, energetic, tough, delivering on what he's promising on. I mean, I got to tell you, it's very impressive to watch how much President Trump has been able to do in the past 4 weeks. He's re-engaged with companies. Think about just the recent investment with OpenAI and with SoftBank in terms of a $100 billion investment, Stargate here in the United States. He's bringing many more international investments back to the United States. He's engaging with the area of Latin America that was ignored by President Joe Biden, where he's been able to say, listen, we've got these criminal aliens, you gotta take them back. And so when you see these really very, I think, swift actions that we're seeing at the border, where we're able to get these criminal aliens out of the United States, back to these countries, it shows that President Trump is working as quickly as he can. Because to Mike's point, there is a honeymoon period. There is a moment here where there is political capital that President Trump has at this moment in time, and he recognizes it. And it's why you're seeing the president moving so quickly on all these priorities, including ensuring that, yes, the focus has to be getting those inflation numbers down, that I'm so glad the Democrats just woke up and said, yes, let's try to do this.
Yeah. Trae, let me bring you in.
Can I jump in on that for a second, Piers?
Yeah, very quickly, yeah.
To respond? Yeah, it's what's amazing to me is that after the last couple of years where Republicans have been saying how easy it's going to be to get inflation down, that all of a sudden the minute that they control Congress and Donald Trump's in the White House, it's a hard thing. We can't get it down. It's terrible. We can't do it. Like, this is insane to me. Like, Donald Trump repeatedly said on day one, grocery prices were going to go down, and they're not. And you want to say I'm putting all my eggs in one basket, but at the end of the day,
I'm sorry, have you seen the oil prices? Gas prices are down.
It should be about helping them retire with dignity and get a good paying job and be able to start a family. And right now, Donald Trump isn't doing that. It's a lot of circus politics. Look,
you're just Mike. I'm so sorry. You're wrong on this.
All right. You know what he is doing. You know what he is doing, because the polls clearly reflect the public approval of this. He's doing a lot of other stuff he said he'd do, and he's doing it very, very quickly. We bring in Trae Crowder. Trae, what I was struck by yesterday at the Super Bowl, a big piece of Americana. Taylor Swift, most popular pop star in America, roundly booed. Now, partly that's because obviously her boyfriend plays for one of the teams. You'd expect some booing, but it's pretty loud. And then the camera turned on Trump, and if this had been done 4 years ago, 6 years ago, he'd have been pretty well booed too, as well as some cheering. But he got almost universal cheering, and the crowd kind of erupted. And as Elon Musk said, that's a real shift in vibe, shift in mood about Trump. And there's no doubt he is a lot more popular now than I think he's ever been in America. Do you accept that?
Yeah, that's probably true for now, I think, until we see how the policies work out. But the Super Bowl, I mean, I'm not that surprised by either of those reactions. I mean, it's an event where tickets are $5,000 a pop or whatever. So you mean the crowd made up of, senior VPs and dealership owners or Trump fans or whatever? I'm not, if he gets that reaction in like at a Memphis Grizzlies game or something, I would be a little more taken aback. And yeah, I mean, with Taylor, you touched on it. I mean, I'm a huge football fan. I think most of us outside of Kansas City have long since gotten tired of the Chiefs, right, and all their, referee love affair, bundle Rooski bullshit and falling bass backwards into wins all year long. And part of that Chiefs fatigue is having to see the camera crew pan to, Kelsey's girlfriend every time he catches another 3-yard button hook or whatever. People just been tired of them and their whole thing for a while now. And I'm not a Philadelphia guy, but the Birds did us a service yesterday, so I appreciate that.
The trouble with if you're Taylor Swift is what do you do, right? If she doesn't go, she's snubbing her boyfriend. The romance is over, and it's front page news in the tabloids for 3 weeks. If she does go, everyone gets annoyed because she keeps going. It's like you can't win.
Piers, but come on. They went on a double date, like Mahomes, who I love, Patrick Mahomes and his wife, and Taylor Swift and Travis, like 2 days before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that.
We don't have time to go to a dinner,
I would not have done that. I agree.
Date before the Super Bowl.
No, I agree. I thought that was a rare misstep where you're really a hostage to fortune if you do that. If you go out having dinner, looking like you're very relaxed and complacent, that's not a good look if you then get hammered.
No.
Let me bring in Sage. I mean, Sage, look, it doesn't mean a lot really that Trump got cheered and Taylor got booed, other than what is indisputable since the election result and the polls all show it, is that Trump has unleashed this barrage of executive orders. Many are exactly what he said he'd get done, including banning trans athletes in women's sport, hugely popular, including what he's doing on the border, again, hugely popular. There's a lot of stuff here which I think most Americans are nodding to. They're going, you know what? Historically, I might have been a Democrat, but I agree with this stuff. And that's where the Democrats, I think, have to be really careful about what they do next. Because if their only shtick is egg prices, they're not going to win back power.
Yeah. I mean, it's been interesting. I think there have been a lot of fair Democrats and liberal political analysts over the last 3 weeks. It's been only 3 weeks, by the way, Mike, since he was inaugurated. So we waited 4 years for something to be done and for some leadership to be shown, and none of that actually happened, which I think was a referendum sent down by voters. To me, as far as last night here in New Orleans, I wasn't surprised either, because at the end of the day, this is a football crowd. But it is also interesting. Yes, people come from around the world. I've been in this city for too long now, 8 days. And the number of people in this very blue city that have come up to me and just said, you know, oh my gosh, thank you, so excited. Donald Trump is making an effort. By the way, no sitting president had ever come to a Super Bowl before, which is strange, first time in history. Joe Biden wouldn't even go to the Army-Navy game, which to me sent a message as well. People just want someone who's going to make an effort, someone who's going to be understandable when they speak and be able to focus on the task at hand, literally and figuratively, and someone who's going to lead. And that is what has not happened over the last 4 years. Every single person I've spoken to, and it's been an honor to be there and to be at the White House last week when he signed that executive order to keep boys out of girls' sports, men out of women's sports, says the Democrats, this isn't necessarily a referendum for Trump. It was just that the Democrats took things too far, and being okay with mutilation of children and not communicating with parents in the state of California when they're talking about potential hormone replacement therapy. All of the things along the way that the Democrats had an opportunity to do better. To bring in the Taylor Swift situation last night, again, for the first time, we didn't have to have a bet. How many times are they going to show Taylor? I think everybody kind of caught on, and that was pre-election as well. Donald Trump, they didn't even show him on the screen when I was at the Sunday night football game with him in Pittsburgh and the New York Jets. I mean, there's been such a big turn. At the end of the day, it comes down to whether it's football or economy or a border or boys and girls sports. This shouldn't even be political for most of this stuff. Protect our girls from boys. I don't know why all of a sudden, over the last few years, there's all of a sudden trying to be an extra gender here. Stop it. Do the basic things. Keep America safe, which means containing our borders, not letting millions of illegals, hundreds of thousands of violent criminals across our border. These aren't even political things. These are basic things that we as Americans have a right to.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I mean, Mike Nellis, look, putting aside partisan party lines, you surely don't still support trans athletes in women's sport, do you?
Well, I actually want to say that I agree with Sage about something real quick, which was the election was not an endorsement of Donald Trump, but a referendum on the Democrats. And you ask why Trump's approval rating and his likability are a little bit higher now than it was 8 years ago when he first took over. Is the difference between taking over from a popular incumbent president in Barack Obama and an unpopular incumbent in Joe Biden. I think what the Democratic Party does need to realize is the way we're talking about certain issues, the way we're advocating for certain issues is, I think, off step. Like, we're off base with the American people on what they want for border security. We're off base with what people want on a lot of other issues, and we're going to have to evaluate how we talk about them. But when it comes to like the trans athlete stuff, I mean, look, it's incredibly popular. It's also an issue that frankly just doesn't affect a lot of people.
Yeah, but what do you think of it?
Like, hold on just a second, I'm going to get there. But Charlie Baker said that there were only like 14 total athletes, I think, in NCAA collegiate sports that are even engaging on it. It's the type of issue that, like, it's getting outsized coverage, and I don't think it matters. But like, at the end of the day, I want to be talking about transgender issues. I'd rather be talking about things that I think are common to most.
I understand that you don't think it's an issue, but you know, if I said to you there are only 14 drug cheats, what would you say? Oh, that's fine.
I don't think that's even remotely the same. I don't think it's
hang on. I think
what I want to
hang on.
want to be talking about, though, is like how we improve people's lives.
Let me explain. Mike, let me explain.
Go ahead.
The point is, the athletes who took drugs wanted to enhance their performance illegally, wrongly, unfairly, unequally with, in those cases, illegal substances, drugs. The trans athletes want to have an unfair advantage over biological women because they literally are biologically built differently because they were born as males. And so actually the analogy is correct. you're gaining an unfair, unequal advantage. And everybody, I think, now sees that. What I'm curious about is whether you, as a Democrat, can actually bring it upon yourself now that Trump has banned it, to say, you know what, he's right, it should be banned, or whether you're still in that place of nobody cares.
I mean, truly, like I don't care about it. Like I just
but
think
what
it's
do
the
you
type
feel?
of issue.
Is he right to ban it?
That's the problem.
I don't care. I'll
You don't care?
let people who are smarter than, listen. I'll let people who are smarter than me in the athletic world make those decisions with information that I don't have. It doesn't.
So you have
impact
views
me.
about absolutely everything apart from this.
And I think it's the type of thing that all the conservatives on this call love to talk about this because they have no plan to lower inflation. They have no plan to put more money in regular people's pockets.
The only thing you talked about was abortion.
So they want to talk about other stuff because it's easier for them to talk about. It's ridiculous.
All right, so just to be clear, just to be clear,
Go ahead, Sage.
Just to be clear, Mike Nellis, who has a view about absolutely everything, right down to the price of eggs. You do not have a view on whether biological males should be in women's sport. I mean, come on.
I don't care. I don't. It's not.
No,
I'm not
it's
an
not
expert.
that.
Well,
it's that you don't want to say it.
Anybody talking about it is when I'm.
You don't want to say it because you don't want your woke friends feeling you've betrayed them.
No,
and I think the Democrats need to, for want of a better phrase, grow a pair and actually stand up for what the American people want. Then you might get reelected.
No, I think the only pair that's been grown is by Big Balls, who's apparently running our government right now, based on the clip you ran.
Well, let's talk about Big Balls then, because let me bring in Trae on this. On Big Balls, I've got no. If Elon Musk has identified some brilliant young geniuses, I mean, God, Mozart was what, 5 when he was writing some of his masterpieces. Why are we so ageist? Why can't a 19-year-old called Big Balls rampage his way through government overspending? It looks to me already like he's doing a rather good job, Big Balls.
I mean, I don't know. I just feel like this is a new idea that teenage boys are like, you know, smart and have their shit together and stuff. I mean, I'm raising 2 teenage boys, and we're letting them like drive the economy. We won't let them drive rental cars. I don't know. Is this really a controversial take that 19-year-olds don't know shit, especially ones called Big Balls? I mean, we all seen these meme lords on the internet. But being like an FBI counterterrorism expert for 20 years and then having to go into an office and have that like office space meeting where you justify your career to, you know, these 2 lackeys, except in this case, they're teenagers, Big Balls and his partner, Queefer Sutherland, 420 or whatever. It's just, you know, I'm not surprised that people kind of get their back up at that. I don't want a teenager, you know, telling me anything. I mean, not the ones in my house, or just anywhere in general. I mean, you can call it ageist if you want. I was a teenage boy too. I was a dipshit. You know, this guy's coming straight out of Twitch lobbies.
The trouble is, there are a lot of teenage prodigy geniuses. You see them playing chess. You see them, you know, Elon Musk was 10 when he wrote his first computer code. You know, this idea they're all dipshits. I just don't buy that.
Well, they're still dumb about other things though. Like I graduated college with a 4.0. I was smart at some stuff and very dumb at many other things.
Yeah, but if Big Balls is very, very good at crunching numbers, what's wrong with him crunching numbers?
Can I jump in here? Because I think we're actually missing the point here. Like, I don't really care whether he's 18, 15, or 45. The government is incredibly wasteful, spends money on a ton of stupid shit that they shouldn't be doing. My problem here is the transparency in the process, right? We have an unelected South African billionaire that Donald Trump has given the keys to the castle. Trump doesn't know what's going on. Hell, yesterday on Twitter, Elon Musk got asked a question by a reporter about cutting NIH funding for cancer research, and Elon Musk had no idea what they were talking about. So my problem is you've got a guy who has a record of paying young people to do his work for him. Elon Musk literally was paying kids to play video games as him so he could seem cool to the gamer community. Now he's paying a bunch of kids to go cut government spending, and he doesn't know what they're cutting. And so the lack of transparency is the issue. I think everybody on this call agrees. Government's very wasteful.
Okay, listen, I'm going to hold you guys there. Okay, listen, I'm going to come back to you, Mercedes, for a reaction, but I've just got to bring in another guest briefly, which is Ro Khanna, the California Democrat congressman. Ro, great to have you back on Uncensored. This whole idea, Ro, of Elon Musk, of DOGE, of his young team of whiz kids led by Big Balls and so on, you know, some people are laughing at it, some people are outraged, some people are all in favor. Where do you sit with it?
Well, look, I said that if Elon wants to help find wasteful spending and do a thorough examination of that, that's fine. I actually took some criticism from my own party for saying that I would be open to looking at what he finds, particularly in the Pentagon, but anywhere. The problem I have with it is that there are rules in our country. There's a constitution. You can't have people unilaterally stopping or pausing Treasury payments. And what he should do is, if he finds this absurd example, is come to Congress, expose it, and force us to vote on it.
I mean, look, there's no doubt from the polling around Trump that the majority of Americans are right behind this. They think the government has been way too bloated for way too long, and they quite like the idea of the richest, most successful guy in the history of America cutting his genius swathe through overspending.
Well, the polling is split. I acknowledge that Trump's personal approval and his job approval is over 50%. The numbers aren't quite as good for Musk. I mean, they're falling into the 30s. I once said to Elon he should stick to cars and Mars. But, you know, I would love to have him find wasteful spending and come to Congress. I think what spooked people is when there was the portal shut for Medicaid for a few hours. I don't want to scare people. No, Medicaid's benefits have been cut or Social Security has been cut. But just the idea that they could do that and that a number of unelected officials could do that really spooked people around the country. And that is, I think, what has triggered such a backlash to what's happening. And my view is he can still fix it. He should just say, I will respect Congress's power off the purse. And that would reassure a lot of people.
But they don't actually have to do that, do they, legally?
Well, I think they do. Under the Constitution, there's a debate. The conservatives, some of the small group of conservatives say that what Congress's power under Article 1 is simply to set the maximum spending level. But the Impoundment Act says no, what Congress appropriates, the president has to spend. And it was litigated under Nixon. What I say to my conservative friends is imagine you had someone from the far left become president. Congress appropriates $900 billion for the Pentagon. This far left president says, no, I'm not going to spend that. I'm only going to spend $200 billion. I mean, give me a break. That would never be constitutional. Obviously, Congress needs to have the authority to spend the money, and the executive branch should go along with it. I think this Supreme Court will affirm that.
Let's turn to the confirmation process. It looks like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard are more likely than not to be confirmed, which means pretty much everyone will have been confirmed apart from Matt Gaetz, who dropped out. I mean, are you surprised at that? Did you expect more of them to fall down?
I am a bit surprised just because most presidents have a number of cabinet members who don't make it. But I think it is a testament to Donald Trump's complete control over the Republican Party. Look, I was elected to Congress when he was elected in his first term, and Republicans would kind of snicker behind his back and say, this was a fluke, he's not going to last. But to your point, I heard your earlier segment, I mean, this is the most popular he has been, and he certainly has complete control of the Republican Party.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I think that people like is that Trump is doing a lot of stuff. Now, you may not agree with all of it, but I do think, leaders generally who act and do things that they said they were going to do when they were campaigning, they tend to be pretty popular.
Look, there's no doubt that he knows the politics of theatrics, and I don't say that dismissively. I mean, the visuals of him signing executive orders and the week of doing things and being energetic, I think it was a contrast to President Biden. I think one of our challenges with President Biden is he needed to be out there more, showing the energy. We had a lot of good policies of chips manufacturing coming back, batteries plants coming back, but we didn't show that sense of energy. The thing, though, I think Trump has to be careful about, I was just in Pennsylvania. I talked to someone who voted for him, who would still vote for him. And she said, well, I thought he was going to cut my taxes on overtime pay. I thought he was going to make sure that I didn't have a tax on tips. Now, it's only 2 weeks in. I'm not one of those Democrats who's saying, well, the price of eggs are still up. I mean, give me a break. He's only been there 2 weeks. But if he doesn't focus ultimately on policies that help women like Tracy in Pennsylvania, his numbers are going to fall. And he's going to be judged ultimately around his economic agenda for the working class.
But the Democrats are going to have to find somebody that can lead them out of arguably probably the worst place Democrats have ever found themselves. I mean, the general scale of repudiation is right across the board from all groups of people in America. And at the moment, I'm just seeing very little in the way of a brave new world, of somebody putting their hand up and going, here's what I think we should be doing as a party for the country. Who is that person, and what's that message going to look like?
Well, here's the good news. We've seen that comebacks can happen very, very quickly in modern politics, and that the American people for the last 10 elections seem to be going from one side to the other. I mean, if you had told people after January 6th that Donald Trump was going to be the president, let alone the nominee, they would have snickered. So I do think there's an opportunity with what Trump has done. He has bashed the status quo. He has bashed the establishment of both parties. There is a consensus that the policies of the past 40, 50 years have not been working. The first thing the Democrats have to do is say, we hear you. The status quo was not working. We know people have it rough out there. The trade deals that ship jobs overseas were wrong. Letting China into the World Trade Organization was wrong. The over-financialization of our economy that enriched private equity while seeing hollowed out towns was wrong. Democrats were part of that. Democrats were part of having too much money from billionaires and millionaires, and now we're going to have an economic independence agenda for the working and middle class. And by the way, we're going to focus on that. One thing, you may disagree with Bernie Sanders, but I will tell you this. Those trans ads would never have worked against Bernie Sanders because everyone knew that Bernie Sanders was going to his focus was going to be healthcare and wages. And so part of what the Democrats have to do is our singular focus is going to be America's economic renewal and helping the working and middle class.
Yeah, although actually, if people had asked him directly, what is a man and what is a woman, and he failed to answer, and he supported policies that allow biological men to compete against women in sport, I think it would have been a big problem for Bernie Sanders, that ad. So the answer for me, for Democrats going forward, is common sense. You know, just do things which are things that most Americans would agree with. Then you got a chance. As long as you're defying them on even things like biology, it's hopeless. Anyway, Ro Khanna, always great to have you on Uncensored. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the panel. I want to come to Mercedes about DOGE, Elon Musk. Are you concerned that these two absolute giants of the political arena right now, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, how long can they go on sort of vying for who's top dog here?
Well, look, I worked with President Trump. I've seen him firsthand, how he functions, how he thinks. And I got to tell you something. The one thing that I understand is that he's the top dog. He is the executor in chief. He's the one that's getting the job done. He is the one with the vision. And then he trusts his people to implement his vision. I'll tell you, when we would decide any policy discussions, we would be in a room in the Oval Office with several of the cabinet members, several of his key staff. He would go around, ask everyone their opinion in the room on a certain policy issue. And you'd be surprised. He sometimes would go with, it would be with my opinion or with a cabinet member's position. And the key is to duke it out, debate it in the Oval Office. From there, then move forward with the president being the ultimate decision maker. So I do believe that the key will be the White House maintaining and continuing communication with DOGE and Elon Musk, which obviously DOGE is right in the old executive office building, right attached there to the West Wing, and be able to help maneuver what is happening and what they're planning to do with DOGE. Look, they've been very successful in unraveling the wasteful spending, which Mike talked about, which, remember, President Joe Biden and his administration allowed for it. When you're talking about that FEMA spent $59 million to house illegal aliens in luxury hotels in New York, that's bad. When you're talking about millions of dollars that were being sent to Guatemala for sex changes and for LGBTQ programs, I mean, it was such an obsession with the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and millions of dollars being sent abroad, not pushing forward what you would say is America exceptionalism. No, it is pushing forward the woke agenda into these other countries, many of them that rejected this and didn't want it. And guess who was paying for it? Guess who was footing the bill? The American taxpayer. And that's why I think so many Americans have been fed up with how this bloated, slow-moving bureaucracy has functioned for so long that it is time to shake it up. It is time to go in, investigate, show transparency, accountability that we have not seen in quite some time.
Hang on for just a second. Before we move on, can I jump? Hold on. Before we move on, can I jump in for a second? Because yes, there's
Mike,
a ton of
you've
ways.
talked so much, I don't even know. Go. Yes.
Well, I think we've had about equal time, Mercedes, but we could tally it up later. But look, there's a ton of wasteful government spending, but what I'm a little bit sick and tired of is Republicans who are just making shit up about what the government's spending money on. Like, how many times have I heard Elon Musk and Donald Trump say that the federal government spent $500 million on condoms in Gaza? Like, let's talk about USAID. They took down the publicly available budget for USAID and then just started making shit up. So I'm all for cutting government spending, but it shouldn't be happening behind.
It's there. It's all documented. It's all transparent, and you all hit it.
No, it was transparent until it was taken off of the website, Mercedes. Like, you guys took it down, and then now you're making shit up.
Oh, you think that's your conspiracy theory, really, Mike?
One of the reasons why
look, they
Kamala Harris
off the website, and they're claiming they spent $500 million.
Okay, let me bring in Sage. Sage.
One of the reasons why Kamala Harris / Joe Biden / the Democrats, the whole movement lost is because of the lack of transparency, Mike, and I think you know that. You couldn't even be honest about the mental acuity of the commander-in-chief. Everybody knows what was going on the entire time. I spoke to the man, interviewed him 3 months after he was inaugurated in 2021, and he couldn't finish his sentences then in the commercial break leading up to it. And this is not a personal attack. It is devastating, and you couldn't even be honest about that. The transparency is everything. One thing I think I learned about Donald Trump over the last few years is since he lost the election in 2020, what did he say on Joe Rogan? He came out and he was honest. He's like, here, 100%. 100%. That's 4 years ago. If you want to, don't distract. That's my opinion. Let me continue. He went on Joe Rogan and he talked about the fact that he learned a lot, and maybe in that first term he should have taken a little bit more time. And some of his picks weren't the best picks, and was too loyal and did things for too much, for too long, all of the things. He actually admitted it and acknowledged where mistakes had been made and how this time he had another plan if elected. And sure enough, you got to go back to 2015 and 16. The whole reason why he won is because people were sick of the norm, sick of what was coming out of Washington. To bring in somebody with no political experience and elect him as president, did you not listen to that? 4 years, we know what happened in 2020. He comes back because the Democrats did not take advantage of the position they were in, and also you lied, you failed. You weren't even honest about the commander-in-chief. And then he was in hiding for the rest of his term after that debacle of a debate on June 27th. I say it's okay. There's no need to fight and go back and forth. Donald Trump said it. You got to own the failings. You got to own the mistakes. How do you improve from now? You can debate till the end of time, but just like the Republicans had to look themselves in the mirror after losing, right? What are you doing? And I'm not asking just you, Mike. What are you as a group doing? Ro mentioned it, to say, why was this such I mean, did you see the map? Did you see all the red on the map? This was a domination.
I think the real
of
problem,
an election.
I mean, honestly, Sage,
what did we do wrong?
Yeah, the problem, it seems to me, is the Democrats just don't have anybody out there at all right now picking up the baton and saying, leave this to me. And if I was a Democrat or just a liberal in America right now, I'm watching Trump supremely confident, surrounded by a lot of smart people, doing things the way he probably wished he could have done it the first time round, without the problem of a pandemic to crush him. If he gets 4 clean years at this, he could go down as one of the all-time great presidents. I wouldn't put it past him at all, including finding peace in the Middle East and Ukraine. So it's a fascinating thing to watch, I have to say. Let me bring in, if I may, Trae, something completely different. But one of the other things I find really so wrong about the Democrat side and liberals in America is they love to say we're the Be Kind Brigade. The trouble with the Republicans is they're nasty, we're nice, and so on. And then they do things like this, which is Chelsea Handler saying this about Melania Trump, the First Lady.
I am your DEI host, Chelsea Handler. It was a huge year for biopics, a complete unknown about Bob Dylan, about Maria Callas, and Honora about Melania Trump.
I mean, she basically called Melania Trump a prostitute. That's what Honora is about. So how do you feel about somebody doing that in public and a crowd of liberals all just roaring with laughter?
Well, as a comedian, I think it should be cool to make jokes. I guess that's how I feel. You said,
is that a funny joke?
It's an award show fair. They're out, they're usually
really
not like
calling the first lady a hooker.
brightest.
When did people do that to a Democrat first lady?
I mean,
Michelle Obama.
People say, okay, this is what I always, as a comedian, I can tell you. So, like,
a ton of horrible stuff about Michelle
you
Obama.
should, they said the stuff that people said about Michelle Obama and everything over. But my point is,
on stage in front of an audience,
I can tell you that. No, I know it's true because as a comedian, I know, and I think most comedians would agree. It's like conservatives; they do tend to be very thin-skinned. They are very easily offended. They don't take jokes very well. You kind of have to walk on eggshells around them because you will offend their delicate sensibilities. That's tough for me because I'm a big free speech guy as a comedian. So I'm not used to this, I mean, I am used to this. Chelsea, she said, she called her a prostitute. Maybe that's not really fair, maybe like gold digger probably would have been better. But I feel like when people say, they don't just say gold digger. Usually there's some other word that comes out. They say gold digging. What is it? I can't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue. But anyway, whores, right? Yeah, gold digging whores. So, but I don't know where Chelsea got the prostitute thing from. No, that's totally out of line. What you guys are? I thought y'all are you can't joke about anything anymore crowd, right?
I got to be honest with you. You can joke about what you like, and my only comparison is yes, people trolled Michelle Obama and so on. I don't remember any famous comedian doing it on stage, an award show, calling Michelle Obama a prostitute or Hillary Clinton or any other Democrat wife, for that matter, ever, Democrat first lady. And so I'm afraid it seems to me it seems to me there is a double standard here, because if they had, they'd have been run out of town, and that's the difference.
But your countryman Ricky Gervais very famously went in on the woke Hollywood elite and all that, countless times to their face.
Hang on. Trae,
everybody loved it.
I'm saying specifically
calling. I loved it.
I'm saying specifically calling the First Lady of the United States a hooker. That's what I'm talking about.
If you're gonna define it that narrowly, no, I can't find an analogy to that. But people,
there hasn't been one.
But that's okay.
Because it's okay if you're a Democrat. Yeah. If you're a Democrat, it seems to me that's fine. It's fine to do it about a Republican First Lady. My point is, no one has ever done that from the right or left about a Democrat First Lady. There is a double standard about Melania Trump that I find repulsive. And if I was Donald Trump, I'd be repulsed by that as well.
I just think you should be able to joke about anything as a comedian. That's all I'm saying. I think it's ridiculous to draw the line there. These people are in power. You can punch up. You can make fun of a Democrat First Lady if you want to. You can make fun of the Republican one. It's fine. People either laugh or they won't. If she's in front of a Hollywood crowd, they're liberals. They laugh. Whatever. If she does it in front of another crowd, they're not going to. People at home don't have to like it. They could get mad. But, like I said, I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in free speech. You should be able to say these things,
Oh, you can say it, but I can call it out. Let me get a mic. Mike.
Yeah.
Mike, are you happy that Chelsea Handler called the First Lady a prostitute?
I mean, it's a stupid joke. I didn't think it was particularly funny, but I think Piers, you call yourself an anti-woke host. This is an awfully woke conversation. I think
but it's not though, is it? I actually don't think it is. I don't think calling First Ladies prostitutes is it's not funny, but B, it's just wrong, isn't it? I mean, I'm not even American, and I feel it's wrong.
Listen, I agree with you. I didn't think the joke was particularly funny. I had no idea what a Nora was until I read the briefing for this conversation earlier today. Never heard of the movie. But look, I think conservatives need to lighten up. I think liberals need to lighten up. Was it Whitney Cummings on New Year's Eve that did a bunch of anti-Kamala, anti-Biden jokes and the left went crazy? Let comedians have fun. If you don't like it, turn off the TV.
No, I'm all in favor of that. Right to the point you call first ladies hookers. I just think it crosses a line. Let me bring in Mercedes. I mean, Mercedes, is there a line?
I'm a defender of the First Amendment, so I agree with Mike. I agree with Trae. I think, it's a distasteful joke. I absolutely hate it. I do think that for Melania Trump, there has been she's been targeted from even the women's fashion magazines. They won't put her on Vogue.
Vogue never has her on the cover.
She had this incredible photo for her official portrait. The writer of Vogue, who, by the way, is the worst dresser, made the worst comments about Melania Trump. Look, she's a fashion icon. the woman can walk into a room and goodness gracious, she is just such an incredible presence. And someone who I know has, it advises the president in a lot of these cases as well. So yeah, distasteful, absolutely. I think that comedian is awful. I've never liked her. I see the women from The View, they are as awful as well, because for them, it's always the personal attacks. It's always like, let me, bring out my nails and try to be the mean girl and try to destroy, for example, a Melania Trump. And it's just, I hate it. But at the end of the day, the great thing about America is our First Amendment and our freedom of speech and our ability to say what you want to say.
It is. And you can say what the hell you like. It doesn't mean you can't be held accountable for it, or that some things you say are repulsive. And I view that as repulsive. Let me bring in Sage finally on this. I mean, I've met Melania Trump a number of times. Very, very nice lady. Always impeccably well behaved, impeccably well dressed. Barely puts a foot wrong, literally, in the 8 years she's been in public life. And yet she gets unbelievable amounts of abuse. I just thought this just crossed the line. And frankly, coming from Chelsea Handler, one of the sleazier people I've ever met in my life, it's like, really? You're going to be chucking stones here? You, Chelsea Handler, spends half your life stripping off and posting your nude pieces of your body to the world? No thanks. You're the classless one. Now, Sage, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's considered the source. My bar is so low for the Chelsea Handler types out there that I'm almost immune to it and not offended anymore, because this is kind of what I would expect from her. And it was interesting also to see in the crowd, a lot of those liberals kind of were afraid to smile, sitting on their hands a little bit, because it's just a little bit too far and unnecessary. And maybe I'm a romantic, you guys, I don't know. I just think the divisiveness as a whole, read the room. Let's try to be tasteful with things like this. And there's a difference between, calling someone a dummy even versus insinuating that she's a prostitute. I do think the double standard with Melania has been quite sad to see. You look at the first term for Donald Trump and how they treated her. To me, I'm expecting her to come out not swinging, because that's not her personality. It seems, I've never met her peers, but just that steely jaw of hers, and to be present and to be out there and to be visible and to make a difference. I love that they put her on the cover of that magazine recently, and I love how she was on Inauguration Day. Melania Trump doesn't care. She knows who she is. She knows who her husband is. And she actually is classy. And to me, it is quite different from the woman that we saw. When was Joe's debate? Back in June, and she came out on the stage afterwards. Good job, Joe. You did such a good job answering the questions. Like, stop. And again, Dr. Jill, I will use air quotes once again, Mike. At the end of the day, we want a first lady who represents our country well, who is classy, and at the end of the day, I think is there, I hope, to support her president and not make it about her versus him. That's what Melania Trump is. And I look forward to seeing her being more vocal, more out there this term. I think she will be. We've already seen it.
Yeah, I think we need more Melania Trumps and less Chelsea Handlers, to be perfectly honest with you. But anyway, thank you to my panel. Thoroughly enjoyed the debate. Much appreciated. Turning to the Super Bowl one last time before we say goodbye, and a feud that everyone's talking about, Drake versus Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick brought out his Drake diss track, Not Like Us, to the Super Bowl halftime show. But why is this rap feud unlike any other? I'm joined by rapper and DJ Lord Jamar to break down the feud. Lord Jamar, great to have you back on Uncensored. Thank you, Piers. For those who have no idea what any of this is about, in very simple terms, what is this feud about?
Well, I guess it's about rap dominance, rap superiority. You know, who's going to be at the top of the pile? Who's going to be number one? It started back when Drake and J. Cole made a record together, and they alluded to themselves as being, the biggest in the business. And they actually mentioned something about the Super Bowl. In turn, Kendrick Lamar got on a song with a rapper named Future, and he addressed Drake and J. Cole's comments. After that, diss records started going around. A few people started making diss records. J. Cole made a record, and then he wisely dropped out of the feud, and we don't even really remember him in it right now, which seemed to be a pretty smart move for him. So then Drake and Kendrick started going back and forth, and then once Kendrick came with the Not Like Us record, it was all over. game over, knockout, and we haven't heard from Drake since.
I mean, he calls him in the lyrics of the original version. He didn't say this on stage yesterday. He calls him a pedophile. I mean, that's what's been the most contentious point. I mean, that's an incredibly damaging thing to say about someone.
Absolutely. And to say it in so many different ways, one of the biggest lines in the song is, probably struck a chord and it's probably A minor, the double entendre of he said it in A minor, but then he's talking about A minor, like a child, was just brilliant. Actually, he was also wearing a chain at the Super Bowl, I don't know, with a small A with an A minor on his chain. I don't know if people caught that.
Why is Drake not responding properly to this? If that was me, I'd go nuts.
Well, he did try to respond. I think he was going to file a lawsuit. He wanted to sue Universal or something like that, which would be a first in the history of diss records. In hip hop, you're supposed to have a thick skin if you get into a rap battle with somebody. If you lose, you're supposed to just go away and lick your wounds and come back later. But this guy actually accused Universal or whatever of basically pressing the button as these big record companies are able to do. He feels like they pressed the button for Kendrick to make that song, be what it became. And they didn't do it for him, and he got mad.
I mean, Drake has emphatically denied, obviously, that any suggestion that he's a paedophile. But in the diss world, for those who are not that au fait with it, is taking things to that extreme, even if there's no evidence to support what you're saying. Is that perfectly normal?
Yeah, in rap battles, all kind of things could be said. Rap battles have gotten more pretentious over the years. People really have taken the gloves off, and so any type of any low-hanging fruit is fair game, basically.
What about Kendrick's actual performance? I mean, I like him. I think he's incredibly talented. I actually met him last summer at an English football match, actually, and he was a really nice guy to meet. A lot of criticism that it's quite a niche act, probably for a Super Bowl audience, both in the stadium, who seemed a bit lukewarm, but also the 100 million or so watching at home. Was he an appropriate choice, do you think, to be a Super Bowl halftime act, or was it slightly jarring?
It all depends on which way you're looking at it. Was he an appropriate act as far as he brought massive amounts of eyes to the Super Bowl? We were going to watch it anyway, but many people wanted to see this particular performance. Did he deliver entertainment-wise the way that we're used to at a Super Bowl? No. We're used to, singers and real dancers and all kinds of, his performance doesn't lend itself to that. I don't know if there's a lot of rappers that have shows like that, where they can just do a Super Bowl thing by himself. I mean, it was nice when he brought SZA out there. But yeah, for me, the whole thing was kind of lackluster. Although, he's very cerebral, so he tried to put little Easter eggs in there, the people forming the American flag. That was him trying to say, like, Black people helped to make up this country. Then he had the small A, the A minor. Then he brings out Drake's ex-girlfriend, Serena Williams, to do a little crip walk out there. And then finally the whole stage was shaped like a PlayStation controller. PlayStation is owned by Sony, and Sony is the one that puts out Drake. So all these little Easter eggs that he had, that's cool, but at the time when you're performing, that really doesn't translate, No,
I think 98%.
It's good conversation now.
The truth is 98% of the audience would have had no idea what any of that meant.
Exactly, yeah.
So he was true to himself. But, I mean, I was watching the other day the Michael Jackson halftime performance, which kind of kick-started the whole big show at the Super Bowl, and it was just on a completely different level of entertainment to a mainstream audience. I mean, there's no doubt.
Even his costume choice, I gotta say, like, I wasn't happy with the oversized leather jacket and the bell-bottom jeans. I don't know who styled him, who said this is what you should wear for your Super Bowl performance, but I just feel like, we're used to people like Usher and, Beyonce, and it's just a bigger, more pomp and circumstance, and the way that they even dress for a Super Bowl performance is just.
And how damaging, finally, Lord Jamar, how damaging was this for Drake in that his biggest rival, who's written this song, which was just lauded at the Grammys as the greatest song of the year, plays it at the Super Bowl with 100 million people watching, and it's just a direct assault on you. How damaging is it for Drake?
I mean, I think it's super damaging. This was like Kendrick's crowning achievement. See, the symbolism here is Kendrick represents grassroots hip hop, whereas Drake represents a corporate creation. And usually the corporate creation wins, just like usually the Democratic Party wins with whatever they say. But we are in a certain place politically and mentally where people are, going with what they really want. So the people wanted Trump, and the people actually wanted Kendrick. So to see Kendrick win, it's just very satisfying for a lot of people that say they love real hip hop.
Final nail in Drake's rap rival coffin?
Now, hang on. We do live in a time where people's attention span is very short.
Yeah.
And if Drake just waits this out, it might be a while, but if he waits this out, he could be one hit away from being right back on people's radar. So I wouldn't count him out fully. He still has a big machine behind him, but it's going to be very, very difficult for him to come back from this.
Fascinating. Lord Jamar, as always, great to have you on Uncensored. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Piers.